It's been 7-ish months since I got my iPhone 16 Pro Max, and it hasn't left my pocket or my gimbal or some contraption on my body since then, really. And so I want to share some of my long-term thoughts, also what I reckon the iPhone 17 is going to be like, if that will be worth upgrading to, what I like about the iPhone, what I don't like about the iPhone, and also after spending a lot of time with some of the crazy Android rivals out there from Xiaomi and Oppo and Vivo and the like, has the iPhone just got a bit stale? Oh. That's a wrap. And for me, the most useful, the most underrated upgrade with the 16 series, particularly the Pro Max, is the battery life. 205 cycle counts, which I think is one a day for 6 months or so, and we're still at 100% of the maximum capacity. Previously, and I know this because I've used the 15, the 14, the 13, I've been using iPhones for a long time, that will be down to sort of 92, 90% by this point. 100% after nearly 7 months. The thing is though, the battery life on the 16 Pro Max is not best in class. In fact, in my most recent flagship phone battery test, it came in 5th. Spoiler alert, the Vivo actually won. But it's significantly better than the last 2 generations of iPhones, even beating the previous champ, the 13 Pro Max. And that's despite having a bigger screen, 6.9 inches up from 6.7 on the last few generations, and also the most powerful chip we've had, the A18 Pro. So it's faster, it's bigger, the battery health seems better, and I actually wirelessly charge this, which famously does degrade the battery more than regular wire charging, and it is the longest lasting iPhone I've ever used and that you can buy. Then there's the camera, specifically video. Other phones may have bigger sensors and more lenses, higher megapixels, and the S25 Ultra is very close in terms of video, but the ability to shoot in up to 4K 120 ProRes video in log or HDR if you prefer, just hook up an SSD drive to the USB-C, maybe whack it on a gimbal or even just go handheld, grade it with your favorite LUTs in the edit afterwards, and you can get some pretty incredible video from the iPhone. Zooming in and out is smooth, you can finally pause and resume video recording. And I still maintain this cinematic mode is the best you can get. I would love if it went up to 4K 60, tops out at 4K 30 here, but in terms of that bokeh blur, I think it looks the most natural on an iPhone. And with all the fantastic camera apps you can download, Kino is a personal favorite of mine, but even Apple's own Final Cut camera added some much needed features, like having audio meters so you know if your Bluetooth mic is working or not. And you know what, even if you don't have a proper Bluetooth mic, the studio mics, as they call it on this new 16 Pro series, are actually really, really good. You've also got the audio mix settings for cutting out background noise, but even just a regular voice note like this, I'm switching between the audio of my proper lav mic plugged into a Tascam recorder, recording in 32-bit float and high bitrate, versus just me holding this in front of my face. Maybe if the environment was really loud, I'd then throw it into Adobe's AI Podcast Enhance sort of web tool. That often saves me. But the built-in mics on this are actually really good. Plus all your social apps, particularly Instagram, often get new features first on iPhone, so it all just adds up to make the iPhone pretty much the default and the best choice for creators. I also want to point out the 2 best things about taking photos, specifically photos with the iPhone. Number 1, even just taking a regular photo captures the depth data, so in the gallery you can turn it into a portrait, adding that nice bokeh blur without worrying about, oh, should I take a photo or a portrait when you're in the middle of the action. And it does this better than any rival I've tested. And the second thing is the revamped photo styles. You can set it before or after you take the shot, and it's just really satisfying dragging around this little touchpad, and it really helps you just get away from that typical iPhone look when it comes to photos. Now I just need better camera hardware, but more on that in a second. Apple's engineers also deserve a ton of credit for continually giving us the fastest and best chips on the market. The A18 Pro and the Pro and Pro Max can max out any game, including the handful of proper console level games on the App Store. For photo and video editing, it's the fastest you're going to get. It is very powerful. The only downside, despite having a bigger vapor chamber cooler this year, is it does still get quite toasty. Not as hot as previous years, but if you've got the brightness whacked up, if you're playing a game or rendering a video, something demanding, it can get quite toasty. But also, even if you're not a pro user using all that lovely power you have on tap, it all just means that you have more longevity from your phone. Apple promises 6 iOS updates as well, so unlike the vast majority of Android phones, realistically you can buy this and use it for the next 5, 6, 7 years. I'll see you in 2030. And then lastly, there's all the extras. The fact that you have Apple stores with Genius bars if things go wrong. They hold their value longer. They're more environmentally friendly compared to some rivals. iOS, Blue Bubbles, the genuinely useful dynamic island, the whole ecosystem. With the App Store, Apple Arcade, Apple TV, FaceTime, iPhone mirroring. I actually use that a lot since it was added a few months ago. And of course, AirDrop. Oh, pro tip when it comes to AirDrop, you can actually connect it over a cable, USB-C to C on your laptop, and then do AirDrop as a wired connection, and it's actually much faster if you have bigger files or the connection around you isn't very good. So just plug it in and you get wired AirDrop. The point is, even with much more exciting new phones out there, I still come back to this as my daily driver, partly for iOS, partly because it's just such a good camera for video particularly, and also of course the ecosystem. I mean, I have a MacBook, I use a MacBook Pro, I also have AirPods, Apple Watch, iPad, MagSafe of course. In fact, stay right there. Got myself one of these bad boys, the neck band, and actually everyone who's seen me use it is like, I have to get one of these. Just pops on there, or even with the case that I'm using, POV. Again, as a creator's tool, which not everyone is, but it is incredibly useful. So that's all lovely and wonderful, but 7 months using this guy, there's also a few things that I don't like so much. Apple Intelligence. Now, I don't want to spend too long on this because it's all just a bit boring. Siri is marginally more useful, but mostly just because it has ChatGPT built in, which you could just access anyway via the ChatGPT app. And I've actually set my action button to fire up the live chat, highly recommend. But we're still missing the contextually aware on-screen Siri that Apple promised. Genmoji is fun for all of about 30 seconds before you realize how limited the creations are. Image Playground is just weird. I don't know why you want to use this, to be honest. The cleanup tool in the Photos app is wildly inconsistent, and pretty much all of the phones offer a better eraser tool. The only genuinely useful AI feature here is the writing tools for summarizing, transcribing notes, rewording in messages and emails. But again, Google or ChatGPT genuinely does a better job at this. The main benefit here is that it's baked into Apple's apps. It was overmarketed, they overpromised, and it's underdelivered. Hopefully iOS 19 in September can fix things. My second issue is the camera, particularly the telephoto lens, which I just don't like using. I mean, I kind of miss the optical 3x telephoto, and ideally we'd have a 3 and a 5 or a 3 and a 6 times like you get on a lot of Android flagships, but more fundamentally it's just the sensor is too small and I rarely get a good shot out of it unless I'm in the absolute best lighting and conditions. And while it is a bit of an academic point because you can't buy the XA Ultra outside the US, just look at these portrait shots versus the 16 Pro Max. And while there is a lot that goes into making a good camera, sensor size, aperture, the ISP of the chip, the color science and so forth, I just feel like Apple, very much like Samsung, have just sort of plateaued in terms of the photography. And the selfie camera hasn't been meaningfully improved over the last couple of years, although the rumors are that it will see some love with the iPhone 17s. And while we're talking about the camera, Apple still has work to do to reduce that pesky light glare that follows you around when shooting in low light. I feel like every year they add a new coating to the lens to try and reduce it, but it's still a problem. I do think Apple's processing with Smart HDR has come a long way in the last couple of years, and the newer photography styles makes all the difference for getting much more interesting looking shots from your iPhone. I just think with all their resources, they could do more. And I guess altogether, I just feel a little bit underwhelmed this year when, the main two headline features were the fact that we have Apple Intelligence and the camera control button, which I barely ever use. Occasionally I remember it's there to double press to open the camera app, but I actually turned off all the slidey stuff where you can change the settings just because I kept accidentally rubbing against it. You can change the pressure sensitivity, you can change what it does, but I just don't really end up using this. And honestly, despite my ranting about the camera and how it could be better, I'm still probably going to use this for 90% of my content capture and everything, you know, photos and videos that I take here, just because it's easy, it's in my pocket, and it does a good job. Maybe not the best job in some ways, but a good job. It's a very nice phone, of course it is. It's an iPhone, it's their top spec Pro Max 6.9 inch. They've trimmed the bezels, it's faster, the battery's better, camera's slightly improved, especially with some of those features like the smart photography styles. It does everything well, but I do also feel like it's just got a bit stale. We need a bigger sensor, particularly for the telephoto lens, but I'd like one on the main lens as well. I'm constantly jealous of my friends who use their S25 Ultra all the time with that anti-reflective screen. That's so nice. And also, you know, just the software to catch up. Hopefully iOS 19 will bring some very tasty updates, but as any good tech YouTuber will say, you shouldn't buy a product based on the promise of features coming soon, right? It's what is available today. I'm being attacked by birds over here. Guys, I'm in the middle of a shoot. Can we take 5? 4K 120, slow motion. So that's the iPhone 16, well, the Pro Max, but what about the 17? We've got the Air, we've got talk of an Ultra. What are we gonna get in September? Well, nothing's been confirmed yet, but there have been some dummy models, some mock-ups that we've seen that show a pretty big overhaul. The new lineup could be the iPhone 17, the 17 Air, 17 Pro, and 17 Ultra. So where the Mini and also the Plus didn't sell that well for Apple, I think maybe they're counting on the new Air, a super slim, possibly kind of mid-range priced Air, making a bit of a dent. It looks so futuristic, although no doubt it'll compromise the camera quality and also the battery life being so thin. And then at the top end, a new 17 Ultra could be the new flagship model. We've heard this rumor before with previous generations of iPhone, and they've always just been the Pro Max, so it could be the 17 Pro Max. Either way, we're looking at, again, a bigger battery, even bigger vapor chamber cooler, and potentially for the first time, a triple 48 megapixel camera setup with a big bump up from the 12 megapixel telephoto. All iPhones are expected to upgrade the selfie camera and come with Apple's latest A19 or A19 Pro chips, but will we see Apple use their own C1 modems in the 17 series like we got with the 16e? Possibly. Will the prices go up because of tariffs and everything that's going on? Maybe. And will Lou from Unbox Therapy try to bend the 17 Air? Yes, definitely. But what did you think of the 16 series and the Pro Max? And are you going to upgrade to a 17 potentially in September? Let me know what you make of the iPhones in the comments below. Any questions, any feedback, drop a comment as well. And I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Jab.